In today's SMC Outlook, I am sharing my exact trade plan for the DXY, the Euro, the Pound, the Dollar versus the Swiss franc, and also gold. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Justin, been a forex trader since 2007, full-time since 2011. As always, all of this is my opinion only and not financial advice. So looking at the DXY, first of all, let's take a look at these markets because the second half of February was pretty slow. We are starting a new month next week, and I do think that we are going to get a lot better price action in March than what we had in February, at least for the second half. Now, with that said, I still put on 7 trades last month. Not a huge month in terms of trading volume, but out of those 7, I still managed to make money on 6 of them, and they were all called out in real time in Discord as well. So this isn't just hindsight stuff. I'm not just saying this stuff. I called it out in real time, full transparency in Discord with our members. So looking at the DXY here on the 4-hour time frame. So let's take a look at this overall picture here for this market. And the external structure for the DXY is pretty much unchanged. I mean, we haven't seen much of a change here since this low in February back here and these highs. Okay, so these highs back here, we've got this low down here. Obviously, this was the impulsive move. Since that time, we have seen some relief here for the US dollar. Now, at the moment, too, what you can see is that the market is carving higher highs and higher lows. Now, technically, on the 1-hour time frame, this is what I use for directional bias. You can see that back here off of this high, we technically had a 1-hour close above. Now, this was very slight. However, on the euro, you'll see that it was much more convincing. Okay, so this is a valid bullish BOS up here. Okay, so technically we have this confirmed up here, which means that this down here is our external low all the way down here around 96.5. So what that means really is that all of this here below this high up here and above this low down here, all of this is just internal, guys. So yes, we are seeing the market kind of pull back a little bit here like last week, but for the most part, this is all just consolidation. Now, one thing that I am keeping a close eye on though in March is going to be this consolidation, this coiling action that we're seeing here from the DXY. And what I mean by that is that off of these lows back here, you can see where the market is really just kind of coiling here going into a new month. So typically this right here will result in a pretty explosive move from a market. Now, what we don't know is which way this is going to break. However, at the same time, like I said before, we do have that BOS up here above this high. And so far the market is technically in an uptrend. So I have to respect that fact. Now, here is the key though. I'm not looking to play this breakout. I want to be very clear there. That is not how I trade. I trade SMC. So what I'm looking for here, if we move in, this high up here is going to be the one to watch. Okay, so if we just make this really simple, this high up here in early March is going to be the one to watch right around 98.7, or I'm sorry, 98.07. And then this low down here is also going to be the one to watch. Okay, so why is this low the one to watch? It's the one to watch here because you can see that internally what we had from this market was we had some internal, okay, BOSs that occurred. So back here we had an internal BOS. And when I say internal BOS too, what I'm referring to there is the market giving us a break of structure internally. Okay, so inside of our external highs and lows, which we just talked about here on the DXY. Okay, so internal BOS here. Now what that means is that this back here, okay, is now going to be an internal change of character. Okay, so if we just label this out, it's going to be an internal change of character to the point that this right here confirmed that sellers were taking over a bit. Now, again, this is all internal though to this larger external structure. That's what you have to be careful of. And this right here, this kind of stuff right here is what gets traders in trouble, is because they're trying to trade this without understanding the overall structure, the external structure that's occurring here on the DXY, which again, you can see back here, externally, we had a change of character. Externally, we had a BOS up here above this high, okay? So all of this through here is just internal, and that's why I have no doubt that a lot of traders got chopped up here at the end of February. But like I said, I put on 1 trade last week. I put on 1 trade the week before. Both of them were profitable. So a pretty low volume month last month. But it was still a profitable month for me. So, you know, all in all, considering this kind of price action, I call that a huge win. And also, if you do want access to those trades and you want my help every single day in Discord, plus the full course, then check out the link right here on the screen. So that's going to provide you with free access to an SMC course that I put together. It's 100% free. All you have to do is enter your email to get access to that course. And then beyond that, you're going to have a chance to join us in Discord if you want. No pressure at all. I do provide a 30-day confidence guarantee if you do join us, but it's completely up to you. All right, so going back here to the DXY. So all of this here is internal, guys. Really, the structure that we're focused on, or that I'm focused on going into March, is going to be this one. Okay, we had the BOS up here, external low down here. All of this is internal. If we get a close below here, then one pocket that I'm watching here on the sell side is potentially this down here. If we look at the daily, you can see that this candle right back here. Okay, so this right here is technically a void in the market. Notice how following this candle here, this was essentially the end of this consolidation, and we never saw a retrace into this. Okay, so this is one area down here where if we were to get acceptance below this low on the lower time frames, then we could see the push down here into areas like 97. Okay, but that would by no means mean that the dollar is overall bearish, because remember, all of this right here, all of this is internal to what's happening with this low right here and this high and that BOS above it. Okay, now on the other hand, if we do get a break here, let's go back to the 1 hour time frame. So if we do get a break above this high back here, then we have a BOS. Okay, so above this high back here, then we have another break of structure above here, and then we're targeting higher levels, potentially some buy side imbalances from back here. So if we look at this on the 4 hour time frame, you can see that going back here toward this very impulsive move lower, you can see that we have mitigated most of this candle right here. Okay, so this has pretty much been mitigated here on these highs. However, we do still have areas back here too. There's still reason to think that if we were to get a bullish break of structure, we could come back here and tag some of these imbalances as well. I mean, even on the weekly time frame, if you look at this on the weekly, you can see where this back here, if we move all the way in here, right, you can see that off of this low right back here, it's a little hard to see with all my labels on here, but this low right here on the weekly, you can see that we haven't come up here and tagged this. So right now, this low comes in right here around like 98.70 or so. So this area up here is still an unmitigated weekly imbalance, okay? Now, one last thing here before we move on, I talked about this too in the DXY video I made on Friday, but you can see where since 2011, let me go back here to linear out of log. You can see back here toward 2011, we have the DXY moving within this ascending channel. So this is a decade plus channel here. And so far, if we move in here on the monthly time frame, because February just closed up, this could provide us with some clues here. And as you can see, I mean, technically, right, this is our level right here. So technically support back here, support once again. And so far with February closing, it does look like the DXY is holding on to this area. Okay. So certainly not bearish overall on the really high time frames, but at the same time, like I said, on the hourly, we are just consolidating here within this external structure. Okay, so watching for an explosive move in March following this consolidation here. But the key there, as always, is going to be patience and following the rules. Okay, so EURUSD, basically the inverse of the DXY. We saw a lot of consolidation last week, and I did manage actually a long position from here, which I also announced in Discord as I do with all my trades. Basically, what we had here was the market coming down here and mitigating an important sell side imbalance. So on the 4 hour time frame, this area back here, so off of this high, this was essentially an unmitigated area based on this low, and we mitigated that through here. We then had an internal shift. So let me show you that here on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so on the hourly time frame, you can see the back here during this downtrend, we had an internal BOS here. We then had an internal change of character on this close. So as soon as we got this, we did have a little bit of a shift here. However, you've got to keep in mind, this is internal. Again, this is the distinction between internal and external, and ignoring this can get you in trouble. So even though we had this internal bullish shift back here, this was internal to this overall external structure, which technically right now is still bearish, okay? So that's very important to understand. Now, I was getting long, as I said, through this area, and this was based on a liquidity sweep reversal that we had back here, acceptance above it, getting long on the pullback here. I did manage to take off some up here and then the rest over here in this area. So, again, very choppy markets, but one trade last week and it was profitable, made a good bit of money. So that's a win for me. So, and especially in these market conditions too, if you can get out of this with one trade and a win, then that is a huge win for that week, okay? Now, looking at the euro, what this is going to come down to is that a couple of things here. So first of all, this level up here, despite the fact that it's internal, this is the high from this internal change of character, meaning that if we get a close above here, then that would give us an internal BOS, okay, a bullish BOS. And that could open up areas like this back here. So notice how on the hourly time frame, areas like this back here, this is an imbalance up here right around 119. So that could open up this area. However, again, we have to get the market giving us confirmation above this area here. Okay, so confirmation above here, possibly a pullback looking for buys for that continuation up toward 119. Now, on the other hand, if we take out this area down here, okay, so take out this low, now you have the market giving us a close acceptance below the external low. Okay, so what that would mean then is, and I actually forgot to put this on here too, I have it hidden right now. So putting this back on here, right off of this low, this is our external BOS over here. Okay, so this is our BOS right here externally. And so this being our external low, if we were to get a close below here, this would be a new external BOS, okay, telling us that sellers once again remain in control. So what this comes down to, guys, is we either get a move up here to give us an internal BOS, right, for a push possibly back there towards some buy side imbalances, or we get the move down here, break this low, and then we get the push lower, okay? Now in both cases, guys, and I want to really make sure that we're clear on this, in both cases, I'm not looking to play a breakout. I don't trade breakouts. What I'm looking for is acceptance, okay? Acceptance above here, acceptance below here. If we get this, I'm looking for pullbacks, okay, against any sell side imbalances. If we get this right here, then I'm looking for, again, retracements, okay, into any buy side imbalances, okay? So this right here would just be acceptance. This is not the setup. This down here would be acceptance. This is not the setup, okay? And that's all I'm looking for, guys. That's all I do literally every single time. So very simple. So right now, again, the market is very sideways, but again, typically after sideways consolidation like this, you do tend to get some explosive moves. So I do think that March is going to give us some better price action than what we had in the second half of February. Okay, so moving along to the pound. Also, obviously very sideways. And this one too, what we have here is technically speaking, okay, technically on the hourly, you can see the back here, this was our external BOS, okay, because we closed just slightly below this. Now, with that on the chart, we can also see that once again, we have this BOS, this external BOS. Now this matters because this kind of changes where our external high is. Okay, so in this case here, we have technically the external high up here, okay, and the external low down here. Now this, in my opinion, is a bit debatable, and it's debatable because this close right here was so slight with this BOS that this alters where this external high is. Because here's the thing, if we had not closed below it here, then our external high would still be this one, okay, way up here. And in my opinion, I think this makes more sense for an external high, especially when you look at the euro, okay? So I'm labeling this as an external high, but I still think that if we were to take this out, okay, then overall, right, the downtrend here, technically speaking, should be like this here, okay? And that all of this is just internal. Again, this changed a little bit back here because if you use an hourly time frame, we technically closed just below this low over here, which gave us this new BOS, which meant that this is our external high. So all in all, guys, I mean, the pound, like the euro, kind of a mess here, right? You can see a lot of internal shifts here. We had the internal change of character, internal BOS, internal change of character once again. This right here, guys, is the stuff that I avoid. And I haven't traded the pound. I mean, I've been trading the euro a little bit. Like I said, one trade last week that was profitable, but I haven't traded the pound just because it looks like this, and there's really not a lot to do here. So if we get the close below, let's go ahead and map this out. If we get the close below this low over here, then we have a new BOS. Again, that would not be the setup. I would simply be using this as confirmation that sellers remain in control, looking for shorts against the trend, okay? Now, on the other hand, if we get a close above this high right back here. Okay, so let's move this down here. In fact, I'm going to draw a new level here to mark out an internal level. Okay, so internally here, if we were to take this out, notice that we did not take it out on this high, but if we were to get acceptance above here, same thing, then we have an internal shift here, or internal continuation, I should say, for a possible push higher. Okay, so just waiting for some answers here from the pound, guys. I mean, it's kind of very similar to the euro, just waiting for these markets to give me some clues. Okay, so let's move along now to the dollar versus the Swiss franc, which no surprise here, it's also very similar, very sideways over the past few weeks. Okay, now in this market too, you can see we have this downtrend here, BOS back here, BOS once again. We did have a change of character. So if we go to a 1 hour time frame, which is my time frame of choice for directional bias, you can see that we do have a close above right back here. So we closed above these highs, giving us a slight change of character. Again, this was mostly internal. However, when you look at the euro and the pound especially, those change of characters did matter, okay? Because they put those markets into a downtrend. And this one here, even though we're not in an uptrend technically because we haven't had a close above this external high, this did give us a higher low back here, which you can see that this right here, we did actually have a pretty clean shift here internally. So internally too, you can see back here, we had this high right here. We had continuation, right? Internal BOS. We then had the close above that gave us a change of character. We had the imbalance through here. We came back here. And then that was the bottom here internally for the dollar versus the Swiss franc. So you can see that since that time, it did put this market into an uptrend. Now, again, all of this here is internal, right, to this external structure. You can see that here, that all of this here, external high up here, external low down here, all of this through here, guys, is just internal. And so yes, you can trade it, but you've got to be careful. You've got to understand that this is all just internal price action. Okay. So looking now at, again, the hourly time frame, you can see that up here we had the BOS. Okay. And really, I mean, you could make the case that this up here was also a BOS, but this case here, I mean, you can see that this was mostly just sideways. There was really no pullback here to call this a true BOS. So for me, this was the low back here, the protected low internally. Okay. We closed below it over here on Friday. So right now we do have an internal change of character. It doesn't mean that this market is now overall bearish, because remember, we are still just sideways. Internally though, we do have this change of character, which means that we have now this imbalance up here in this area. So displacement down, this area up here is one to watch early next week. Okay. So possibly, you know, rotation up here in this area, and then a continuation of this. Just keep in mind though, again, that all of this is internal right now. So you've got to be careful getting too, you know, overly bullish or bearish on this market when we are just sideways and trading internally to this external structure. Okay. And one thing too here, before we move on to gold, I've talked about this before, but you can see the back here following this displacement. Okay. Yes, we had this high right here, which kind of tapped a little bit into this imbalance, but for the most part, this area back here is wide open for business. So this is one situation where, you know, if we start to see something structural here internally flipping bullish again, this area up here would be my target, simply because this is just a massive imbalance back here for this market, a massive FVG here for the dollar versus the Swiss franc that so far is completely unmitigated. Okay, so let's move on to gold now and map this out. Okay, so this right here, what I talked about weeks ago, following this move right here, this very aggressive move, is that a lot of times when you get this kind of move, the market basically just consolidates for weeks or even months. And that's exactly what we've seen. I mean, this occurred back here in late January going into February, and so far we're rolling into March and we're right here still in this range, okay? So for gold right now, the thing to understand here, let's talk about imbalances first here before we get into a setup. So this back here on the hourly time frame, this is still an imbalance. Okay, so this is a void in the market. It's also an FVG, but this candle back here is completely unmitigated. Okay, we have not tested this yet. Now, it doesn't mean that we will, okay, but if we are going to come up here into this area, which so far we do have this internal uptrend, okay, if we are going to come up here in this area, then one region that I would like to see tested, and look, we could come up here and tag this first before we get the rotation lower. But one thing to note here, if we look at this on the daily, you can really see where this sell side imbalance comes into play. So looking back here, you can see that off of this daily high, right, we had displacement, and then we never came back here to retest this. So one scenario that I'm looking at next week is, as we move into a new month, is possibly coming back here toward this 50-50 area to mitigate this before we get a continuation up here toward this area. Now, again, we could come up here and mitigate this area first and then get the pullback, okay? So that is one scenario. And keep in mind too, that when we look at this on the hourly, we now have a new internal BOS up here, okay? So here's what I'm looking at for early March, is because we now have this right here, okay? If this is gonna stay constructive, in my opinion, this down here is the area to watch, okay? So if we look at this in terms of premium and discount, and look, we don't know where the high is going to be, but this region down here, this little pocket is the one that I would watch, okay? So we had displacement out of here. We didn't have a retest of this. So possibly a rotation to this early next week, and then maybe a continuation up here toward this region. That's what I would look for. Now, to confirm this, I'm not just going to go out and blindly buy this. I would look for low time frame confirmation to target areas like, you know, 53.50, 53.75. Okay, because now we have, again, we have this BOS up here, which I'm calling internal, guys, only because really, in my opinion, right, this right here is your external structure. I mean, it's pretty clear. We have this high up here. We have this low down here. So I don't think there's any question that this really is your external range and that all of this here is just internal, okay? So again, because of this IBOS right here, we have this low now being protected, okay? So any close below here, even though we do have this imbalance back here, any close below this would give us an internal change of character. So if, again, if we're going to come up here, this trend is going to continue internally, then this would be the pocket that I would watch back here. So right around, let's put a mark on this, right around 5,200 or so, going into early March, possibly a mitigation here before a continuation up here in this area. Again, we could just come up here and tag this first and then get the pullback. I'm not here to forecast. That's not what I do, right? This is about reacting to the charts, about having a game plan, and then reacting to what is on the chart, not what we think might happen. But for now, guys, this is the structure. I mean, really just an internal uptrend. It has been pretty choppy, but at the same time, you do have this uptrend. You do have these BOSs to play. And again, you do have this new BOS here now on Friday. So this is your protected low right down here around 5,100. And you have that imbalance around 5,200 going into next week. So I hope this video helped. Keep it locked in here to this channel. Subscribe. Also check out the free SMC course, this link right here on the screen. And until next week, have a great weekend. I will talk to you again on Monday.